Fantastic. Thank you, Richard. And yes, good morning all. Thanks for jumping in and joining the webinar today. So hopefully, I think I've seen some new names. So I don't think anyone had been on the last call. If you had, apologies, I might have missed your name. But it looks like everyone's kind of fresh, jumping in and having the first look at Culverdocs, which is exciting. So yeah, the idea for today really is just a nice little overview on a couple of sides of the system in terms of what we've done to date in our partnership with BAGMA, getting the record of machine installation up and running. So it's designed to be a very easy in solution to going paperless and essentially just taking those paper pads away, saving the planet and making life a lot easier for everyone filling out the forms. Just trying to automate and make the process as efficient as possible. Along with that as well, we'll be talking about the unlimited side as well, if you wanted to look at a full paperless solution. And really, yeah, there's a lot that we can talk about, so we'll try and keep it light, as Richard mentioned there, that we'll try and keep it down to around half an hour or so. Leave some time for questions as well, if there are any at the end. And we'll just play it by ear as we go through. Like to keep these things fairly fluid, and often people do have questions. Worth bearing in mind as well, as we did last time, anyone, if there is any interest there that you'd like to do a bit more of a deep dive into things, more than happy, we can organise something following the call and jump onto a Teams call or something to give you a bit more of a run through of any areas that I might not have covered off in a huge amount of detail, because one of those things that I could talk about for hours. We definitely don't have that time today to get into the nitty gritty. But yeah, let's get started and get into the exciting things. So just to give you all a bit of a background in terms of who we are, what we do, and where we've got to today. So I founded Culverdocs back in 2017. We're actually an IT consultancy slash development house, so to speak, back in the day. And we worked with a lot of businesses that all had the exact same problem in terms of paperwork being out in the field, primarily field-based teams, where you were just really struggling with paperwork, getting it back. It could be anything from an audit, an inspection, a contract of employment, whatever that type of data might have been. Trying to get it through post and so on was quite a strain on the businesses, so to speak. So really, after encountering the same problem over and over, we actually started deploying or implementing those that are now our competitors, that are out in the field that do paper-based solutions. And we really found that there were lots of pitfalls to all of those solutions. Some were really easy to use, but lacked functionality. Others had a lot of functionality, but really needed technical resource in-house to be able to implement them. So as a consultancy, practice would go out and help these businesses set them up. The only downside, like I said, is they didn't have the resource in-house to do it, and there was a real demand for a business that could cover both sides. Provide that technical support, being able to set something up, make a business more efficient, whilst also providing the software UK based, so you could pick up the phone, have a chat to someone, and really get them up and running. So that's really where we stem from, taking our consultancy approach to everything and building it into the app. And really our focus was building that unique app that could capture any business data. And bear in mind, we work across lots of different industries. Taking that data, being able to make that work within the business, and then making a very simple and easy to use app out the back of it for all of your field-based teams just to be able to pick up and use without any type of training. You'll see that when we get into the app. It's the first thing that I'll jump into after this, really to show you how simple that is, filling those forms out and going through. But on top of that, just so you know, as we go through, everything is self-service. I think a lot of people do worry a little bit that you don't have access to the systems. With Unlimited, at least you do have full access to everything, but you've also got our support in the background as well. This one I won't labour on too much. Data security, people often glaze over. It'd be great if more people were interested in it. I'd love to talk data security and compliance. So if you would like to talk about it, more than happy, let me know afterwards, and we can go through this in a bit more detail. But just a few key takeaways, because GDPR, data security, everything is very important for every UK business. So the main things we like to highlight is, first off, everything that we do is on Google Cloud infrastructure. We've partnered with Google because, let's be honest, they run the internet. It also allows us to manage where all of the data is hosted, if we do spread any services across the EU and so on, and we can keep track of all of that, and it's all encrypted. So we say it's primarily UK hosted. All of the core services and everything is in London. We do have some services that we spread over the EU as well. Again, it's all GDPR compliant, but it just allows us to make sure that there are multiple data centers looking after the services. The last thing we want is one of those to go down for any reason and something stop working. So we've got a lot of the technical measures and infrastructure in place to really support any type of data and amount of data that you need to put through Culverdocs. In terms of encryption, this is probably the most technical, but just so you understand, all of the data that Google hosts for us is encrypted. But on top of that, we also add our own encryption as well to any of the data you give us before we give it to Google. So there are lots of layers of protection of all of your data that's in place. And then lastly, as we've got here, GDPR compliant, we ensure that through going through Cyber Essentials plus certifications. So we are audited. We run penetration tests on our own networks. We use CREST approved testers to really try and attack it. And that's just an annual thing that we go through, as well as DSPT for NHS. And we've also got further Google accreditations as well. So that's the short version. Like I said, if anyone had any questions around it, let me know. We do have plenty of info around it. And then moving on, pretty much lastly here, as you're going through, if there is any questions or if there's anything that you'd like to know a little bit more about how we work with other businesses, you'll see on our website we have these Capterra badges placed pretty much everywhere. We're very proud of being 5-star, and in terms of our position against our much larger US competitors, let's say, we do very well in terms of our approach to supporting businesses and how we like to take a very unique approach to data capture. So if there is anything that you're ever wondering and want to have a look at how other businesses have dealt with us, worth jumping in, click on this Capterra link. You'll find that across the website, like I said, and there's lots of testimonials and so on. There is also, since the last webinar as well, if anyone was on, there is a BAGMA partner page on the website, which can be accessed just typing in this URL, or we can send those out. That covers use cases. There is the previous recording and also testimonials as well. So if you wanted to jump in and have a look at some of the customers that we're already working with in the industry, worth jumping in. There's a lot of info on there as well. And we're done. So we've got through the boring side of my slides. Let's get into something a little bit more exciting. And the first thing I really want to cover off is the BAGMA solution. So like I said at the start, there's two sides to the solution and what we're going to be talking about today. The first is the BAGMA specific paperless solution, which is designed to be an easy to use and just pre-configured version of the app, which you can log into and start using without any hassle whatsoever. BAGMA have already put all of the hard work in with us to build the record machine installation form. So that's already there, ready to go. And it's already configured with all of your workflows to email the copies out to operators, their companies, installers, including things like Gold as well. If you're using DocStore, we can set that email address up to send those directly through to your DocStore based on the WGS number. So before we go any further, I think it's always nice to jump in and actually see what the app looks like, how it works, and how simple and easy to use it is. So what I will do over here is let's pull that app up, and you should be able to see it on the screen here. Now, I've already logged in. The first step that you'll see, if you decide to sign up and start using the solution, is you'll receive an email, or the installer will receive an email with their login details. So username, password. You download the app from the store, and you can just get logged in. Now, in terms of the store, as it's quite a common question, you can download. It's available on both the App Store and the Play Store, so it doesn't matter if you're on iOS or Android. It looks exactly the same. I'm demoing on an Android device, but like I said, iOS will look exactly the same here, as well as phone and tablet as well. Tablets obviously gives you a little bit more real estate, but in terms of this form, there's nothing too taxing in terms of requiring too much screen space. So you're absolutely fine on both of them. But once you're logged in, you'll see this very simple screen. Now, the approach that we've taken with Culverdocs is to keep the user, so the end user, the installer that's out in the field, keep their interface as simple as possible. And we've done that by giving them a screen here that there is simply one button at the bottom of the screen to create a new form. So if I click on that, that brings us into our new form screen. Now, in this account, we do have there's only the one form, so they can just click on the record and machine installation, and that now brings us into the form. What we've done is followed a very simple top-down approach. So you'll see here, each of these fields, we've got a caption, so the information that we're asking for. We can see with this red exclamation mark here that it's a required field. And as we go through, if let's say we miss any of these, the app will prompt the user. They need to fill those out before they can submit them. And we've got a mixture of different field types as well. And we'll get into those a little bit later on when we get into the form builder and kind of show you the diverse field types that we can handle. But for now, let's pop in and select make. Now, there's often a little bit of contention with who I select from this list. So I'm just going to pick one at random before I upset anyone here. And I'm also just going to pop a test model in. So we'll just call this G512. When we come through to the stock number, so this will likely be your gold, your whole goods WGS number. We can pop that in here. I'll just pop something random in and click done. And as you can see, we're just following each of these fields through. As we complete them, we get a little tick here to show that it has been completed, and we can then work our way through the form. Now, I'm not going to go through each one of these fields in particular because they are just your ticks and your NAs, which I think you'll all be familiar with. So as I go through, tick these, you'll see that the app automatically scrolls down just to keep it nice and easy for the user. So it is just a case of going through, ticking each one of these. I always say whenever I come to checklists like this that I hope that the end users filling them out are going to take a little bit more time and care than me just hitting this tick, but we don't need to go through every single one there. But they're all ticked now, so we've completed all of those checks. And as you would have, as you know, with the current BAGMA form, we've got some sections for comments. So I've got a box here that I can easily type some comments into. So I just pop test and need to arrange follow-up. As you can see, that text box will actually grow as large as you need. It is a multi-line box, so any of those comments you need to write in will actually appear then on the output report as well. Now, moving on to the sign-off for the operator section. So what we have here, in most forms in today, I believe you can have up to 6 operators trained at one time. So we handle that through what we call a repeater. And you'll see here, we currently have a section for one operator, and at the bottom of the screen, we've got a plus where we can add another one in. Now, I'm just going to pop through and again, stick some test data in here. So let's put logs in. Logs, and then we can also include the operators training card details. Now that you'll see is optional. There isn't a flag next to that. So if you haven't got that, not to worry, you don't need to enter it. And then lastly, here we can enter the operator signature. So with the mobile app for e-signatures, you can easily just sign with your finger, or if you're using a tablet, let's say, or a phone with a stylus, that works as well. But I'll just pop a signature in there and then click on the tick to save that. That's now embedded against that operator, and I can also pop that company name in and stick in the operator's company address. So the reason we do this is we want to be able to send this form out to both the operator, the installer, and the operator's company as well. So everyone receives a copy, as well as BAGMA as well, for for their compliance purposes. So let me pop that in, and we're good. Now, if I wanted to, at any point, like I mentioned, I've got this plus, I can just click on that, and that will now repeat those fields. So we can go through, add another operator in. One thing that we've done here is, as quite commonly, you'll be training the operators in the same company. We copy those down just to save your users a bit of time. And you'll see that as we go through, if there's anywhere that we can save users time filling these out, pre-populating fields, for example, we'll always try and do that to support them. I'll just remove that just to save going through and filling another one out. And then lastly, we're going to move down to our installer sign-off. Now you'll see here, and coming back to what I mentioned a second ago in terms of saving them time, we already know the date that they're completing the install on, so we've pre-populated that. The installer's name, this is the name, the device I'm logged into, so that would show your name when you're logged in, and then also the company that you're assigned to is pre-populated, and there's no need to change those, they're locked down. When I come to the signature, we will just sign that for each of our forms. So as the installer, I'll sign it. And I also have my BAGMA number here as well. That's pre-populated. That's always uploaded by the team at BAGMA, just so you have all of your card details preloaded. You don't even need to worry about remembering them. So now that we've got to the end, if I come through, when we're ready to send this, I simply click send here at the bottom. You'll see this is spinning, it's uploading, processing, and as soon as that's ticked, that's now complete. So within a matter of seconds, the system's picked up your data, it's put it into the output report, which I'll show you in a second, and emailed it out to all of those contacts. Now, this is in a demo mode, so some may have noticed I used a random email address there. That hasn't emailed them out, but in your main setup, in the actual BAGMA account, that would have emailed all of those email addresses that we provided within the form. So moving over to grab a copy of that email. Let me go and pick that up from the portal. Quicker. There we go. So as you can see here, this is the form that was emailed out. I've just downloaded a fresh copy just to jump straight into it. And this one should look fairly familiar to everyone completing the forms. In Culverdocs, we're able to, and we'll delve into a bit more detail, but we can take any word outputs that you already have for your reports, and we've done the same thing here of taking an editable format. It can be in any format at all, and build the data into it. So you can see here these points that I ticked. Now I popped one down as NA and the rest were ticks as I was running through. So these have been applied in the form. We have our whole good number here, and then our make and model that's been added to the section, as well as those comments that I mentioned there, operator's detail, and the installer's information as well. So this form will be sent out automatically. Everything's pre-numbered as well. So each of your submissions, just like you have in your book at the Mo, the system will automatically generate the next ID. So there's no need to worry about running out of numbers, new pads, and so on. The app will just continue to work and provide new IDs each time a submission's come through. And then lastly, one of the things that I wanted to mention here, just jumping back to the app, is the documents. So just trying to make life as simple as we can for any of the users is, as well as pre-filling their information, company information, the BAGMA number in, we can also access our ID cards. So within the app here against the menu, we have our document screen. Now we've uploaded Nick's ID here. You would obviously have your own ones. When you go through, select that, the app will automatically upload it or open a digital copy of your ID. So rather than having to worry about carrying that around, or if, let's say, it was forgotten, you'll always have a digital copy if anyone does need or asks for it as you're going through. So that is the first run through of the BAGMA form. I was just going to quickly check if we have any questions so far, Richard. I don't know if there are any up, or if anyone has any questions you wanted to sort of jump in with before I move on.
I think we're fine at the moment. See, you're so thorough, Jeremy, of course.
That's it.
It's, yeah.
No, perfect. Yeah, I've just opened that one up.
Yeah,
yeah, can't see any questions at all. So that is fantastic. So let's pop this back up now and let's come into the unlimited solution. So again, just to wrap up on this one, in fact, before we jump on, one thing I didn't mention was Gold. I mentioned earlier that we can email that through to Gold. All of those emails that are sent through, if you do have a Dockstore email address, you can give that to the team at BAGMA when they're setting a user up, and that will then flow through with that WGS number as well. And that's pretty much it. There's not too much more to talk about because all of those processes will just work out of the box. You don't need to do anything else for that, and you can get your team up and running literally, instantly. Just get in touch with the team. Moving on to the unlimited solution. So one thing that we found very quickly after we did the initial solution for BAGMA and had their form set up is a lot of the businesses, or pretty much every business we've started talking to, the paperless issues or paper-based issues are really business-wide. It's not just the record of machine installation that they want to take paperless. There are always going to be lots of other forms, processes, and so on that they want to be able to build into it, which is why we then opened up the unlimited option, being really the core of what we do as a business of providing those, the platform, the consultancy services, and everything that wraps around that to take your entire business paperless, opposed to just that one form. Now, there is obviously a bit of a cost difference between them. Coming back to the BAGMA solution, that is cost at £4.50 per user to keep things, as value driven as we can, and just to bring your users up and running. However, moving on to the unlimited, it is our standard sort of rate where you can move every single form that you ever have or could ever imagine wanting to take digital into the platform. Now, the pricing, and we can go into a bit more detail sort of down the line, but just so you know, sort of up front, everything that we talk about in unlimited is truly unlimited. We have clients with literally hundreds of forms, thousands of submissions a day, depending on the industry that you're in. You're not limited to a number of submissions on devices, how many forms you can have, list options, and so on. A lot of the time, the limitations are purely based on the devices that you're running from. If you're trying to synchronize 50, 60,000 items in a list for a lookup, they tend to be down to the device, making sure that they're at least suitable for high volume data. But yeah, there is very little chance that you'll ever hit any problems like that with a normal setup. So coming into what is the unlimited side? The unlimited is really unrestricted access and fully branded to your entire business. And the unrestricted access not only is the number of forms, but it's really the platforms and the solutions. So we've seen the mobile app. One of the things is the portal, which really gives us the administrative ability to configure the forms and manage that data, as well as the web app as well. So we do have the ability to switch between mobile devices, the web through, let's say, a desktop if you want to stop and start forms on your PC in the office, let's say, and then go out and complete them, or vice versa. And then, like I mentioned, the unlimited forms, fully featured, and so on. And really, all of that is based around the portal. Now, I jumped into there earlier, so you would have had a bit of a sneak peek. But over on the screen here is our admin portal. Now, this looks quite bare at the moment because we've only got the one form. That submission that I've just popped through is sat in there. But this is essentially where you would go and what I tend to call the techie side. It's not techie. We've made it as simple as possible, but versus the app where that literally hasn't got one configuration option, all of the configuration comes into the portal. And it means that you can have defined people within the business, administrators call them, that can access this to design the forms, manage lists, view all of the submissions, because it's where all of that data comes back to, that you can view and report on and so on. So on the dashboard here, we have this a nice simple view where we can see our active forms, some of the key stats. We can see our latest submissions, but in many cases, you will have more than this won't show your entire day's submissions. It's just the latest 15. We have the ability to run reports over here where we can come through, apply filters on particular forms. We can look at users. So if we wanted to find a record for a specific user, also down to status and the date range as well. So by default, it filters on or shows you everything that's been submitted in the day, but you can easily change those. Now, for every single submission that we have as well, I've got this magnifying glass on the right-hand side here, and that brings us into our form layout. So this shows us everything that's been completed in a, again, simple top-down view of that form. So as an admin, I can jump in at any point, search for any data, open it up, view that data, as well as viewing a full event log as well. So we audit trail absolutely everything in the system. And if compliance is one of your main reasons for looking for a digital solution, we cover that off through time stamping every action, so we can see exactly when users started it, when they submitted them, when the server received it and processed, even down to, let's say, signatures here. We've got an exact timestamp when that signature occurred. We can even download these and so on, anything that you like. There's lots of different sort of features in here and actions that we can perform, but I'll kind of skip over those rather than sort of spending too much time in the record view. One thing to point out as well, because it is quite important for a lot of people, we haven't got GPS enabled on this one at the moment, so I can have a look at the formal pop one through. But if you have got GPS enabled, the app will automatically pick up the point at which the form was started, and you will see a GPS map here as well. So there's lots of different ways to keep on top of where your employees are, what they're doing, when they're being completed. And again, it just helps to build that full audit trail of any data that's going through the business. In addition to that, moving our way up to the forms, because that'll probably take us a little bit longer, we have what we call lists. Now, you would have noticed when we were in the mobile app that we had a drop down and we had a set of options. Now, this is really important, and for pretty much, I can imagine everyone on here would most likely need a list of their customers, contacts, their whole good numbers, let's say, to be able to select from. And that's really what our lists are. It's a database within Culverdocs that we can add as many as we like. We can add, if we jump into this list of makes, you can see that we have a set of options here, but we can also come through, add additional columns. So you can store as many rows or as many columns of data that you need to in here as well. You can import and export from Excel, and we've also got lots of other integration options that I'll touch on in a little bit. But any way that you have a web-enabled system that can read and write data will be able to sort of support you with getting that up and running with lists as well, because it's very common. You'll have a separate system that's managing a CRM, let's say, if you need to link those two to allow users to select from your list of customers in HubSpot. I think probably go with gold in this case, but we can get that data across with our data bridge solution as well. And you can also, even if it's not integrated, be able to add as many lists and any data that you wanted to store in there. And then lastly, moving through into the form builder. So the form builder is really the core and the crux of what Culverdocs is about, being able to design forms and then send them out to your users. When we click into the form builder here, we've split this up into a few different columns, and we've got lots of different field types. Now, I'm always conscious of time because we have about 20, maybe 30, high 20s, different field types. And then within each one of these fields, there are their own set of configuration options. So you can see here that make list. There's lots of different setup in terms of how we want to manage it, and really granular configuration around how exactly you want that field and that form to work for your users. So I won't be able to cover off every single one, but just to give you a brief idea here, if I come through and create a new form, so I'm going to call this demo form, I can enable on the front screen here GPS tracking. I can also enable forms to be able to share them via email if the user needed to do that. But when we come through, create that new form, it now brings us into a blank form builder. And we can really start just dragging and dropping fields. So if, let's say, I wanted a field for name, I can pick that up, drop that in here, and that will then open up that field configurator. So I'll pop in name. I can do things like capitalizing words. So it's one thing you've probably all noticed that when you type your name into, let's say, an email, the first word will always be uppercased or capitalized. Second one won't be. We do little things like that, and it's really around our OCD and making sure that data is clean as possible at the source, opposed to having to tidy these things up down the line. And if anyone's ever had any type of web forms, will probably know the pain of trying to tidy up that data after the fact. So yeah, but there's a lot in here that we'll try and handle before it even gets submitted. So with this, we've got the name. I'm going to make that required, capitalize those words. I can even do things like visibility rules, which is our logic. Now, I probably won't step into that today based on the time, but we can go through and show you how that works if you're interested. It's really being able to configure a flow in the system. So only showing particular fields based on other fields' values. So you might have a yes/no question or something that asks for follow-up questions. We can easily build those in as well. I think I might have an example that I can enable here to show you on the app. But once we've gone through, it is just a case of completing and adding all of these different fields. So you might have is the vehicle secure? Choice field is an inline option, very similar to those ticks in the NAs that we saw earlier. So we can customize all of the choices and add new ones in if we want to, and then the likes of selections and so on. Now, I'm not going to add each of these in, but just to give you a very brief idea on the other types of fields that you can include. Probably, I don't think we had a photo on the last one, so you can embed photos. You can even set photo fields up to be illustrated. So if it was let's say an on-off hire form, if you wanted to take a photo and then mark any areas of interest, let's say damage, you can do that within the app. You can capture e-signatures. We've got the illustrations, and we can even take it further with if you've, let's say, got your machines that are QR coded, you can import those QR codes into the system as well to be able to scan those to essentially scan the machine when you're completing it, so you don't even need to find it from a drop down or a lookup in the system. And then the others like videos, files uploads, and so on. If you did have any video needs, sometimes people do them, especially going back to on-off hire, to be able to do a walk around of the machine if you want to do that for future reference. And then working our way down, we've got the likes of postcode lookups, the GPS locations, so we can capture on-demand locations, and then advanced field types repeater, which we saw earlier for those for the operators, and even if you wanted to build calculations in. So we've got different types of calculations where it might just be a mathematical equation or going as far as writing code into the app as well. If any of you were inclined to do that, we can really extend the process, any particular calculation that you might have into the app that way as well. So let's say we've completed this now. I'm going to keep this nice and simple with those two fields. Once we're done, I can just click publish changes. Now, I haven't actually set a field title here, so I'm going to set this up. The title is essentially just telling the system what the key fields are within the form, so the user can then see that on the mobile app. And I'll show you what that looks like in a sec. But now that's published, that's gone out to the app. So it's in real time. Any devices that are online, they will automatically pick up any changes. So let's pop back to our app here, and we can see we have our two forms now. We have our demo form. Let's just try and make this a little bit bigger for everyone. If that helps. There we go. So we've got the original record machine installation or our demo form. So when we come and click this, you can see that we follow that same top-down approach for all of these fields. So if I pop my name in, let's stick that in, and I'll just say yes on the secure. When I go through and submit that, that's going to go through that exact same process. And I mentioned the title fields, this is where they show as well. So just like we saw with the record machine installation, we can tag these. So if users ever wanting to go back and look at any completed forms, they can identify them easily without sort of flicking through them. And that is pretty much it, bar going into more of the administration, some of the other features like requests where you can send forms out to people. There's a lot more that we can kind of cover off, scheduling, integration, so on. But we'll leave those for another call if anyone's interested. More than happy to jump on and give you a bit of a deep dive around those areas. So I think I'm pretty much done there unless there were any questions. Sophie, I can see one there, so I will come back to that in 2 secs. The only, just to finish off the last couple of points on here, worth highlighting, because I spoke about lists earlier and DataBridge. So with the unlimited option, you do have full access to us. We will support you. We include support in the licensing, as well as free onboarding, support, and training, and that is literally unlimited. So we have a web calendar that you can book into. It will go through to one of the onboarding team that if you ever need to jump onto a call to run some ideas by us, or even if it's just using us as a bit of a soundboard in terms of what's the best way, or is this the best way that I can build the form? Is there a more efficient way? You know, we want people to be able to lean on us like that, because we've done this for years now. We've built every form under the sun, and we have gone through that exercise of identifying the best ways to build them, and there are lots of different ways that you can configure forms and set them up, especially when you talk about workflows and how you can integrate with systems. There's a lot to it, and we want to be here to support you. So our approach is really, if you ever need anything, you pick up the phone, speak to us, book in for a meeting. We're always around to help. And then lastly, on DataBridge. So I mentioned getting data in from Gold. Now, this isn't a Gold specific product or integration. It is just a tool that we offer to all of our enterprise customers that as an extra, we offer to all of the BAGMA customers as well. So as part of our partnership, we open up DataBridge, which is a tool that can sit between Culverdocs and any systems you have in-house. So we have clients that use it for their any SQL server. It could be an Excel spreadsheet that you host on someone's computer that you need Culverdocs to be able to read, access data from, and upload it into the system. DataBridge is essentially the tool that allows the linking of those systems. Now, in most cases, you don't necessarily need that if you were talking about integrating with a web product, ERP solution, and so on. most of the time, our standard integrations sort of cover that. It is just a case of linking those two together through the API or Zapier, if you've heard of that. We've got integrations that are pre-built, and you can pull data through there. But yes, Data Bridge is there. It will help you with Gold, because Gold is just another ODBC connection that you can point it at. It will need a bit of configuration because everyone's setup is slightly different. But if that was something that you were interested in or needed to know more about, again, just let me know, and more than happy to run you through it. I think we're there. That was maybe a little bit under the 45 minutes, just over half an hour maybe. So thank you all for listening to me just not quite ramble, but fire a lot of information at you there. Just coming back to questions then. So yeah, Sophie, is there a way to preview changes to forms, see how it look on the user end before publishing out? Yes. So as an admin, when you're building forms, now I haven't jumped into the setup, but what is most common is you would tend to configure forms around particular users, groups, and so on. So here, if I come through to my users, so a user is essentially the user on the mobile app, I can come through and restrict forms that particular users can see. And in most cases, when you do start building these, and especially in Unlimited, most businesses find that particular users will only need access to particular forms, and you would essentially start those out with defining the forms and the permissions users can see. As you're building new forms, they won't have access to those as standard, but then when you're ready, you can go through and just enable those for those users. We do have some additional stuff, and talking about previewing it, because you mentioned about publishing, we are making a few changes around that, and we will be bringing some changes in the future to give you a sort of view within the portal of that form. But the way that things work in terms of lookups and some of the technical bits I haven't got into with linking to other systems, a lot of the time you're far better on the mobile app or on the web app to fill those out, because you are actually completing them as a user, and there are lots of other things that could affect that form entry. For example, you could have properties set up against a user, so you want to be able to do those lookups, allow it to filter, and really make sure that you're getting the experience that the user's seeing, opposed to just how the form looks. Because yeah, as you can see here, we follow the same view, the top-down approach in terms of the fields. But hopefully that answers your question, Sophie. If not, please feel free to jump in, or if there was anything, if you wanted to get into a bit more detail on that, more than happy to hang around if you wanted to after the call. Perfect, lovely. So covered that one off. Thanks for the question, Sophie. Appreciated. I'm pretty much done here, unless there were any other questions from anyone else. Happy for you to jump in now, or if you did want any more information, please do reach out to the team at BAGMA, and they'll be able to support with that. Lastly, just in terms of that page that I mentioned earlier, so under Culverdocs, we have the partners and the BAGMA page, which you can go through. Down here, we've got the webinar from last time. If you wanted to sit through it again, I can't imagine you would, but if you do, feel free, jump on in. You get to listen to my voice for yet another 45 minutes, hour. I don't wish that on my worst enemy. But if you come through again down here, just a bit of a recap, some information from Nick, some info on the app, and also some testimonials as well with clients that we're already working with, that are already on board with Culverdocs. So please do feel free, jump in, and any other information you need, just let me know. Back
Brilliant.
to you.
Thank you, Jeremy. As always, excellent, very thorough. And I think all I like to add, and I think you've mentioned it, is if anyone's thinking of taking this up, it's to have a look at the companies that are already using it, and speak to, I know, a number of people. I think Ed Smale in particular at Hunts Forest. If anyone ever needs to be confirmed that this is helping, give these guys a ring, the companies that are using it, and they're more than willing just to chat for a few minutes to explain how it's helped their businesses. I think, as you say, Jeremy, testimonials are a really good way for people to confirm that the systems, that you've put in place are working. So we found that's been very helpful, and it's really helped those businesses. But thank you, Jeremy, and thank you everyone for attending again today. Like Jeremy said, you just need to contact myself, contact Carrie or Jeremy. More than willing to discuss anything further.